Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back with another live stream of Hearthstone. Today is Friday, May the 4th. Be with you. Star Wars Day. Not a ton of Star Wars news, really, to talk about that's real news, but we'll definitely cover some of it. In the time between this recording and last recording, I did a very late night, about 3 in the morning, live stream in which I defeated Hagatha. Now, on my Asian account, I didn't defeat Hagatha and the single-player monster hunt element. So, defeating 3 monsters for a pack still makes a lot of sense. So, we should probably get rid of the 2 rogue victories. 2 victories from any class and play minions that cost 2 or less to overlap all of this. I'm starting a little late. Frankly, I'd prefer to start late than start early and then be tired and yawning throughout the whole thing. Didn't we already do this? Yes, we already did, so I'm definitely not going to spend 150 gold there. So we start with the Monster Hunt Adventures because we've got actual reason to do that. We'll see if we want to go for a full run or if we just want to get 3 beasts defeated and then move on to playing ranked play. Depends on really whether the daily quests allow me to finish those things, finish them in this play. Yep.
The trail leads here.
Didn't do anything yesterday, and kind of part of the reason why I'm even delayed today is because I was out at a arts and crafts store working and getting stuff to start a completely non-YouTube related projects, things I'd been planning on doing. For instance, I got a shadow box that I'm going to put tons of old electronics that I've been collecting for decades just so I can have a nice display, proper burial for some of the old electronics I have sitting around, and that was the plan, to collect all of that stuff.
One shot.
That certainly does get to a point that every day it's getting easier and easier to neglect my YouTube channel. A big part of it is I'm sitting on a ton of scheduling stuff, and I really hate the scheduling stuff. I wish I didn't have to do it. I wish I had an editor. That's the one thing that I would just pay somebody else to do before anything else. Is you're gonna be the editor, you're gonna be the person who's in charge of labeling and scheduling things. Half the time when I do schedule things, I'm half asleep anyways, and then I go back and look, and I've made mistakes, and not a ton of mistakes, but enough that something is scheduled to air at the wrong time. And fortunately, it's only been maybe 2 or 3 times that an episode has aired that I've seen it. It's possible that I have simply not seen several other instances in which I've misscheduled things. But yeah, nothing's going on my channel. I still have not even really thought about too much what the next game should be to play. And time is ticking down, so it is possible that I'm running against the clock. If today's May the 4th, it might be that something stops airing at May 15th. And I just haven't even been on top of it. I have really no schedule system. That's part of the problem too, is I have a Google spreadsheet form where I have listed where and when episodes air, but there's no calendar notification system built into it telling me, look, you've got 9 days until this comes out, you've got this many days. I probably should integrate a specific day every week, probably Friday, like after I stream, to go look at the schedule and know for a fact when things are going to air and what needs to get filled in, and just be on top of things. But I'm ignorance is bliss, I suppose, and I am intentionally or subconsciously making myself ignorant. So playing as the tracker is easy enough. You just play that one spell that does 3 damage, and then you keep on drawing that one spell, at least for these early characters. First game we have on Steam is called The Untold Story of Heng Shui School. That's HENGSHUI School. Let's see.
I don't have enough mana.
I played the wrong thing probably there. So, game feature, cult painting styles, puzzle elements, serious student death, event plus humorous mirror roll. This does not seem like it's English as its first language. It says it's a strategy adventure indie casual simulator. To me, it looks very much like it's a poorly animated, almost to the point where you might say it's an animation style, but not really. Looks like it might be a Chinese game. The company's a Chinese name, or Japanese name. I can't tell. But see, if this really is a Japanese visual novel, yeah, then it's one being made by somebody just by themselves, with no artistic style that's anywhere close to any other Japanese illustrator I've ever seen. So yeah, I don't know what in the world is going on with this game, because it seems so odd. It has an all-time peak of 64 players, so some people are playing it, and it's 88% positive of the 26 review scores. It says it's full audio English and full audio simplified Chinese, which I guess maybe that's what this is. This must be a Chinese visual novel, and that explains the weirdness. And then when I look at the reviews, there are no reviews whatsoever in my language. So it's being reviewed highly by a bunch of Chinese people, I would assume, because it doesn't even have Japanese language support. That is, I suppose, a point that's going to have to be addressed, is you have China as a giant market, probably pretty interested in having their own similar types of games to the Japanese visual novels. And a lot of Japanese visual novels don't go into simplified Chinese as a language. They barely go into English, if that much. So there is a slight market there, although China's Ministry of, what is it, Culture, I believe is what it's called, specifically does not like dark thematic elements, and like this visual novel says, it has a cult painting style. I guess that's not cult as in worshipping a demon cult, but cult as in a niche painting style. That's what I assume they're trying to imply there. But then it definitely has serious student death event plus humorous minor role. Like, serious student death events probably not allowed. It says it's downloaded almost 0.9 million players. The live video, like, if almost 1 million people have downloaded this, maybe it wasn't on Steam and something else. I guess that is also an issue, is that there very well may be a Steam equivalent for China only. I wouldn't be surprised if Steam is heavily filtered or blocked in China. This developer, though, has made other games and they are rated positively. So this is a real game, I guess. I wouldn't recommend it, but whatever. That's way too much talk about one game. We've got a decent amount of news today. Gamasutra has an article, "Get a Job. Pixelberry Studios is seeking a software engineering manager for Mountain View, California." We may have already talked about this job. I think it's been the right decision to not go into extreme depth reading all the job descriptions of job listings. If people really are qualified or even have thought to look for a job, they should look it up themselves. So I'm going to continue to do that. Next game we have on Steam is called Venture Kid. It looks like a scaled up in a good way NES game, and by that I mean it has a pixel animation style, but it's zoomed in really close, and instead of it being 16 by 16 pixels of a character so far away from the screen you couldn't possibly even have a clue what the character looks like, instead it is close, the main character is close to the screen, platforming and jumping. So while there are a ton of retro games like this actually looks like something that might be worth playing. It's going to come down to the amount of control you have, because this is pretty much I guess you'd call it a Mega Man style game. It has an all-time peak of 6 players, came out May the 3rd, yesterday. Says it has 12 language supported and 32 Steam achievements, and it's selling for $9.99. I think that there's a chance that this is good. Let's see. Can we play this and then do this and then do this? The first review, however, is not recommended. This game is really fun, too pricey though for what it is. It's a great callback to classic Mega Man games. The boss's AI are a little simplistic, so sometimes the fights are hard, sometimes they are easy, but overall it's a fun experience. Wait for a sale. Window mode not supported. Next negative review says window mode not supported by default. Frame drop on full screen. The game is freezing at every the game is freezing at every interval. So some performance issues, clearly. Next not the recommended review says there's a lot to like here. It's a fun little Mega Man clone. It plays fun and its gameplay is enjoyable. Boss fights are a bit dull. The only issue I experienced is a consistent crash when leaving the shop. If I have OBS Studio running, the developers have been made aware of this and will be able to replicate it, so hopefully they'll be able to patch that in the future. Unfortunately, it's very decently easy, and that's kind of a very niche problem that certainly would affect me as a YouTuber, who would have to run OBS Studio while playing the game. But this is a game that I'm gonna wishlist, even though I've seen that the price is high, even though I've seen that the reviews are negative. There's something to watch on this one. Let's see. The developer, it's the first game from this developer, and the publisher has published this game and a game called Blossom Tales: The Sleeping King, which that game came out in March 26, 2017. So we did a pack. Before we go anywhere else, let's just click back and see if we are making any progress on the other things. No, we aren't, so there's no reason to go forward right now. Today is a pretty short stream. I would be okay with that. I guess I say that every time though. Was this a classic pack or a Witchwood pack they gave me? I think they gave me a classic pack, which is much appreciated, because a classic pack certainly is the kind of cards I'm missing more of. So 3 of the cards were extra. Let's see the new ones. We get a golden one. On the Asian account, we're holding on to the golden cards. We got another one of those. And just one of those. I'm also going to wishlist this game called Blossom Tales. It looks very much like it is a Zelda game. Totally. And apparently I've missed out on this game, so let's see. Back, open a new tab, and then back again. 2 games from the same publisher convinced me to wishlist both. Of course, wishlisting means I'll look at the game when it's on sale. We need to play probably some Murlocs on rank play. If I was to pick something, do I have anything? I have this Murloc Paladin deck that's unfinished, so let's fix it. Murloc Paladin. It's missing this guy, so take that. And it's missing this guy. And I'll take that. So now we've got a working Murloc Paladin to play. Let's play it. Next game we have on Steam is called Volantia. Volantia. Came out May 3rd. It says it's a strategy indie game. It definitely does look like a strategy indie game. Floating islands that maybe you place the islands and that's the strategy, or maybe every game is random. Let's see.
Uther versus Gul'dan.
Let's see. I'm trying to read in the details.
I will fight with honor.
Says you design the land and build the kingdom that resides on it. With space at a premium and resources limited, efficient design is crucial for the kingdom's survival. This is $12.99. Let's look. There's 2 user reviews. Apparently they're both positive. You know, this looks good. It's very visually appealing for any strategy game. It's not flooded with menu bars. It does kind of feel like it might be a slight spin on that game where you get resources on the land and you trade like wood and for sheep, and I know there's some other things. That's a very popular game and I can't even remember the name of it. It does seem like it's kind of a spin of that. It does also seem like it has an Evolution SimCity style skill tree to it to improve. And the question I suppose is, Is this single player? Yes, it is. Has an all-time peak of 9 players. I'm gonna wishlist Volantia too. It looks like it could be a good game. Something that worth looking towards. You know, looking at all of these games, it occurs to me, isn't really encouraging me to play any of the games I have. Inherently, I think, though, the 3-4 hour to 6 to 7 hour streams that I do 3 times a week of Hearthstone are burning me out as far as whatever amount of energy I have in my mental battery to play games is getting drained on this one game. Next game we have is called Bitcoin Trader. You can pretty much guarantee that if there's Bitcoin in the name, there's a very high chance you don't want to play it. It looks like it's a clicker game. It says it's an indie casual simulation game. It's 10% off for $4.49. I cannot recommend it at all. Like, frankly, anything with Bitcoin in the name is probably a bad idea. Although I did see one game last stream that was actually kind of interesting. This is from a developer that has several games with simulator and Bitcoin in the name. In fact, there's about 5 or 6 Bitcoin things. Again, it would be very, very easy for Steam to simply look for the key phrase Bitcoin, cycle through all those games. I wish Valve would just hire me. I mean, I'm doing it anyways. I'll go through your entire list. I'll flag games for review, and you'll find the garbage games pretty quickly. Next game we have on Steam is called Brickfest. It says it's an indie casual action. It looks like it is basically just Arkanoid. I don't know why there's so many Arkanoid clones. I guess maybe it's probably an easy game to program to. But there certainly would have been easier games to program to. But maybe it's the first thing that comes to mind as something that's slightly easy and has some visual appeal. Honestly, if there were more Pac-Man clones out there than Arkanoid clones, you'd do better, because there's more variety you could do in that. A ball, a paddle, breaking bricks is pretty dull, and you can't jazz it up that much.
Speak your piece.
If I was going to make an Arkanoid clone and really try to make it seem different, I'd probably try to subvert the appearance so much that you couldn't even tell. So every brick would be an enemy, humanoid enemy, and instead of a ball, there would be like some kind of particle weapon, and the paddle would be the hero character. And I tried to tilt shift the camera to a third person over the shoulder perspective. And see, at that point, it would feel more like you're playing pinball or something, and you wouldn't even realize you're just playing an Arkanoid clone. But you would have to put an exorbitant amount of visual polish on a game like that to do something that would still be interesting to play and be an Arkanoid clone just in kind of general definition only. And you could spend that energy making a game like that a lot better if you just made a different game. Rock Paper Shotgun has an article. Intel's Kaby Lake X CPUs are getting discontinued. which the Kaby 8X processors.
I must move quickly. I wonder.
The pair of Kaby Lake X processors launched June 2017, but Intel has clearly decided that this slightly odd high-end enthusiast family of Core X series chips simply aren't worth the hassle. They were originally intended to provide an entry point into Intel's high-end desktop platform, as they were much cheaper than the Skylake X CPUs that launched around the same time. The problem, however, is that they didn't play well nights with the rest of the high-end desktop brood. And for starters, each Kaby Lake X CPU only ever had supported for 2 memory channels, so half the DIMM slots of your typical motherboard. The Coffee Lake came along, and the Core i7 8700K pretty much made both of them obsolete. Hooray, product. There's a lot of names and words there, but I guess just be careful when buying your products and do your research, as always. Like that's the best thing you can take from an article like this, is when buying an Intel CPU, do your research and double check your research. I certainly am still reeling from having an NVIDIA GTX 970, but I mean, that really wasn't anybody's fault, because NVIDIA was straight up lying about the quality and the amount of RAM in those video cards, and to the point where a class action suit succeeded against them. But in the meantime, I have neither seen any kind of money from the class action suit, nor have I gotten any kind of recourse to replace the 970 because of that extremely high price of video cards, because of Bitcoin mining and other kinds of mining. And for the May the 4th sale, I did buy 2 Star Wars games that came out since last May the 4th to complete my collection, and one of them was Lego Star Wars Episode 7, and I will give it a try and see if it works, but more than likely it's still going to run into the exact same hitching problem and the exact same issue that I was running into. I just don't think that with the current video card I have, I'm ever going to be able to play a Lego game. And what would be really crazy is if I put in a new video card and it turned out it actually isn't the video card's issue at all. That would be even crazier if for some crazy reason it's my CPU or my RAM or some other element that only seems to affect Lego games and Resident Evil 4 for the most part. Meanwhile, WB, which is kind of the parent company that owns Telltale Games, not Telltale Games, but TT Games, which makes the Lego games, recently released a awful waste of time Harry Potter mobile game that makes you pay money to speed up events to the point where the first time you run out of energy, you have to spend 20 minutes watching your character, a child, being strangled by a vine. I mean, very, very emotionally manipulative for a kid's game, just sleazy all the way around. Moving on, though, Gamasutra has an article. The Madden NFL creative director Rex Dixon has departed EA. So, I believe, let's see the quote. I have left behind a team that includes player-first advocates like Clint Oldberg, R.G. Jake Steen, John White, and many others.
I get
It's interesting, certainly, to have an instance where somebody leaves or gets fired from their job and they actually name other people. I guess this guy left on pretty good terms if he's praising the team that he created. Let's see, the next quote is, "I'm filled with hope when I think about the passion of those who will pick up the flag and fight on for the future of the Madden franchise. Working on the Madden NFL franchise was a lifelong dream. Realized it has been truly an honor." And then the article goes on to say he doesn't note his next steps in a statement. Dixon then joined with Backflip Studios as the developer's design manager, so he went to work for a different company, which is fair enough. Wow, jeez. We're getting some win victories by just taking too long. And I will take those win victories. Absolutely. That gets us up higher in rank. I don't really personally know the state of Madden games. Like, I know John Madden's really old and they're still using his name because there's kind of nobody as recognizable. I imagine right now, because the NFL is not doing too well, not too many people are watching it, that the Madden NFL games probably aren't doing as well as they even were, and they probably weren't doing too well anyways. A lot of the people who decades previous would have bought every year's Madden game have now moved on to Halo, and then they moved on from Halo to maybe Destiny to Call of Duty. And so all of these sports fanatics and people who only played sports games now have, I think, figured out how to play first-person shooters and moved on to that. That would be my guess. The NFL is doing a deal with Twitch, so several of the Thursday night football games are streaming on Twitch, or will stream on Twitch, which also shows that Twitch is getting more popular and the NFL is struggling to find new audiences. I'd probably argue, as somebody from the outside, that there's a multitude of reasons why people aren't watching the NFL, but there's probably some big reasons too. PC Gamer has an article, a serious security vulnerability has been found in 7-Zips. The flaw affects all previous versions of the software. 7-Zip is a free open source compression program to make zip files. It, I believe, even extracts but does not create rare files, which was not a free open source zip compression. For a long time, making a rare file was the best way to compress something, but it was a pain because 7-Zip didn't do it. 7-Zip is the thing I use, so when I saw this, I went and downloaded the latest version and install it. Let's see. What does it say? Basically, someone who successfully exploits this security flaw can install programs on your PC, view, edit, or delete data, or create new user accounts with full access rights. So what does this say? Arbitrary code execution flaw, which is one of the big bad ones, certainly. So if somebody could make a malformed zip file and execute basically a virus or something like that on your PC by just giving you a zip file, and that's no good. So when I first installed my PC, I installed 7-Zip, and then I never updated it. It doesn't have an automatic update or anything like that because it's a tiny program that you usually don't need to update. But if you don't, in a weird way, I'd say go install the newest version even if you hadn't previously installed the version. There's a small possibility somebody else installed a version on your computer, like a different program did. And even if there isn't, it gives you a lot of nice features. Particularly one of the best features is it integrates into the right-click menu, so you can right-click a file and immediately unzip a file or actually zip a file. So if you want to make a zip file and press something. The weird thing, of course, is that in my line of work and like in most people's line of work, if you're dealing with files, you're probably dealing with giant files. So a 9 GB video, like an hour worth of content that I create doesn't really benefit from the extra processing power and compression, because even if I could get a 9 GB video file down to say 4.5 GB, which would be probably not even possible, it would take so much processing power to both zip it and unzip it that it wouldn't be worth it. But for most text files, if you're working with Word documents, you could zip a file, but then usually hard drives are so big it doesn't really make a lot of sense to do that either. So
Not on my watch.
the main reason I even have any zip software on my computer is because when you download the file from the server, sometimes it's zipped, but most times it's not even in. Moving on, the next game we have on Steam is called Inexplicable Geeks Dawn of Just Us. That's J-U-S-T space U-S. It is labeled as an adventure game. It looks like it's a visual novel game, basically. It's drawn by, what would I call this? A very good high school animator, maybe even a first or second year college animator, who's drawing for a very Western old comics style. Like, I would say the proportions are pretty good, and with enough time, you could these are all decently done animations. It's just not a style I like. I really have to just claim personal preference here. The characters just don't look. They're hyper muscular. They look like the way an old Superman character, like Superman, would have been drawn. It says it has a one-time all-time peak of one person playing. It's 10% off for $8.99, and I still really don't know what kind of game this is going to be. A mix of investigative visual novel and interactive mockumentary, which I don't have any interest in that.
You have been.
Like, that's just not going to interest me. Honestly, I think the story that this creator has to tell would have been better telling this in a comic book form than making a visual novel and trying to sell it on Steam. And selling it for $8.99 is way too expensive, and people aren't going to do that. But had you broken it up into, say, several 50-page comic books, you could have easily charged $2.50, $3 for the same amount of content. Let's see, we right now have nothing to do, but I'm going to continue because we've got a streak going on. So until we lose, then we'll move over to the European one. There is one girl in the screenshots that is animated in a decent way, but all the superheroes are like there's a lot of focus on drawing muscular, big thick thighs, big muscular arms, tiny hourglass waists, both on the males and the females. Very linear, but not hyper focused on the face or the hair. It's all about the bodies in this animation style. It's like just yeah, you was sold it better as a comic book instead of a visual novel. I don't feel like visual novels add too much to anything. Frankly, even in the Japanese visual novels, I think if there was a market to sell Japanese light novels and mangas that was bigger, those would be better to focus on. So if Steam had some kind of Steam Direct where it was Steam Direct, here's a bunch of manga, here's a bunch of light novels, and you can just have them, and that would probably work, although frankly it kind of needs to be in print too, and that's the thing, is there's no bookstores anymore, or they're slowly going out of business. I imagine with Toys R Us going out of business, the bookstores that are left in the United States will start selling more toys too. They already had been selling toys, but I bet we'll see an increase. Let's wait. Your Gamer has an article. God of War sold 3.1 million copies in 3 days. God of War. From everybody I've heard that has said anything, says they love God of War. I have not heard a single complaint, and I frankly am not really suspicious either. So I think it is a great game. The only thing that can be said negative about it that I've heard anybody say, and I think I agree with it, is if you wanted a God of War game like the previous God of War games, that's not there. And so, kind of like Tomb Raider, like if you wanted a Tomb Raider game like the old Tomb Raider games when they rebooted that series, there wasn't much that you could find to replace that. I'd like to see if there was some God of War side stories that went back before he was the dad of the boy, and let him do some more rage, angry actions, and make it maybe more of an arcadey experience. I'd like to see that as a side thought, kind of in the same way that the Assassin's Creed has some side games that yeah, the Assassin's Creed has some side games that are interesting.
For me.
But like the QuickTime events are gone. The big boss fights, for the most part, I think are very limited. So you kind of want some of that back. But also I don't think I would agree with a move if the next God of War game killed off the kid or just ignored the kid and moved him on. The ridiculous sex games that were in the previous God of War games can stay on the cutting room floor. They were never really anything but just silly additions anyways. But I still feel like a hyper action QuickTime event game can exist. That is what Bayonetta is, and since Bayonetta is not probably coming to PlayStation, because it's pretty much Nintendo only now, there's definitely room to find some kind of replacement. Alright,
For me.
let's do this. And then this. This. Turn. Unfortunately, since I'm only a PC gamer, unless any of the God of War games came to PC, which I doubt any of them will, I'm never going to play them. In fact, I've probably only spent maybe an hour playing one. I may have downloaded a demo on my PlayStation 3 and played God of War demo, and that's my only lifetime experience of the games. And I'm sure it's a loss, but it's not like I am super upset with not played the game, because the previous games really were kind of throwaway. Next game we have on Steam is called Break Stuff with Coins, and it seems like it's a VR game where you toss coins to play a lot of different games. Like there's a slot machine where you throw coins into a slot machine through a funnel. There's a ability to flick a coin into the sky and turn it into a meteorite. There's like a Arkanoid ripoff. This feels like definitely an asset flip game with coins as the only mechanic they bothered to play. It's $7.99 for a game. It doesn't even, oh, it's not even in VR. Ridiculous. Like, and it has one positive user review that's completely untrustworthy. 118 Steam achievements. Let's see, I wonder if I stay here.
I must move quickly. For justice.
I would need something that would do 10 damage to me.
Yes.
And I don't think I'm gonna run into something like that. Yeah, so I would heavily recommend skipping Break Stuff with Coins. Already talked about that. Next game we have is called Human Powered Spacecraft. Let's see.
Put this apple on your head.
This. And this.
The light dims, but we fight.
So, Human Powered Spacecraft says it's an indie casual comedy single player in space. Tags are weird because they certainly don't mean much. The description says it's a lamp clicker with pixel graphics wrapped in humor. I don't know what a lamp clicker means, unless they mean Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP, which is the programmer what a lamp stack is called. I doubt that's what they mean. They're claiming it's early childhood rated 10 achievements, 40% off for $1.49, and 8 suspicious positive reviews. One positive review says, how do you judge a really short clicker game? I judge it very easily. I don't think anybody is getting satisfied by playing a short clicker game. If you're going to play a clicker game, which is kind of the first admittance that there's something wrong with you, you are going to want to play a very long one. For example, playing time clickers still, I'm hundreds and hundreds of hours recorded in which I've had time clickers run on my PC. Now most of that I'm not actually playing the game or doing anything with it, I'm just letting it run in the background, but the vast majority of it is. But I would still much prefer to play time clickers versus something that I would have just been finished with. If you're going to make a clicker game, it needs to kind of be almost infinite, if not infinite. PC Gamer, the first time we've talked about a PC Gamer article, I believe, has an article, Lancelot and a talking dog take on Jack the Ripper in this adventure game. Dulac and Fae, Dance of Death is due out later this year. So they're talking about a game that's, I guess maybe it's got a release date.
Your magic shall not save you.
I really hate this strategy. This is turning into the new meta deck to hate, where you're constantly dealing with this minion, Lord.
Reporting for duty.
Dulac and Fae, Dance of Death looks kind of like the Council. We're seeing more games that are doing a cartoony 3D graphic look because they realize that you just can't compete with like something like The Witcher 3 or the modern realistic graphics. And so
You're suffering.
I'm kind of happy though that there are games like this, because I would much prefer to see more people make games that play well and are interesting versus making boring games that look really realistic, which that is a problem that AAA developers in particular are running into. They're just spending extra $1 million here and extra $1 million there to get top of the line graphics, and meanwhile Rise of the Tomb Raider, for instance, is a great example of a game that wasn't that interesting storyline wise. The end of this article says, though Dulac and Fae Dance of Death fell short of its Kickstarter goal, the developers are still planning to release it later in 2018. So this is still a article from PC Gamer that I would argue is just an advertisement for a Kickstarter game that very possibly they paid PC Gamer to advertise. It seems like a lot of stuff like that happens. Well, the streak was broken. We lost, but we did make it up to rank 24, and there aren't a ton of days left. I mean, we're only on the 4th of May, but there's only, I guess, maybe 25, maybe 26 more days to play and try and get ranked back up. Ideally, though, I want to get higher than rank 20 in ranked play. I want to see myself growing, and I don't really see a lot of hope for that. This is the right place to end this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. Stay tuned if you're watching live. When you subscribe, click that notification bell. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me even further, gift me a game on Steam. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.